Today I have a question for you. That question is, how do you show grace when you're under fire? How are you patient, compassionate, empathetic, and understanding when someone is really just pressing all your buttons and really just pissing you off? I had an opportunity to really think about this question this week, particularly how that question pertains to my parenting. I had a situation with a student where we really got into an exchange. I won't say heated exchange because I really don't argue with children, whether it's my children or my students. I really, I just don't do it. So the student was really just being obstinate, insubordinate, and refused to comply with directives, which pissed me off. But obviously, as a teacher, as a professional, it's my job to remain calm and keep my cool in situations like that, which I did. It was hard, but I did it. Throughout the interaction, I really remained calm, even though I really was more and more upset the longer the situation continued. And the student just really obviously was not going to comply. We went through our classroom process or planned for dealing with such behaviors. That didn't work. The final step is calling in an administrator and having the student have a conversation with the administrator did not de-escalate the situation, and really we ended the class with tension still high. So I had the student stay after class and we continued the conversation. The problem was not really resolved, but I really made it a point to tell the student before the student left that, listen, today hasn't been a good day. We're not going to solve this problem today. And if you want to try again tomorrow, if you want to talk about it, I'll be here. But regardless of what you choose, I'll be here and we can start again tomorrow. So whether we talk about it or not, whether this conversation continues or not, tomorrow is a new day. We'll start over and we'll try again. And doing that really did two things. Number one, it let the child know that I was going to be a constant and our relationship would be something that the student could depend on, which is not something that the student has a lot in life, particularly when it comes to relationships with adults. Because this is a difficult child. This child can be difficult. So what tends to happen is the student will get into situations like this where they're just having an off day and just really refusing to cooperate with staff members. And as a result, the relationship with whatever staff member the student is having difficulty with is fractured and never really repaired. So I made it a point to let the student know that this would not be one of those times, even though in that moment we were both pretty upset with each other. The other thing that doing this did, and really kind of extending the olive branch, the other thing that it did was allow the student, or gave the student an opportunity to come back and start again. Gave the student an opportunity to be able to come in the next day and act as if nothing ever happened, if that's what the student chose to do, because I was the one who basically said let's just end it. It wasn't that I apologized. I did nothing wrong, and I did not demand an apology or an acknowledgement of guilt or being wrong from the student. So I was not asking the student, I wasn't asking the student to admit any wrong or anything like that. I wasn't giving the student a reason to try to have to come in the next day and kind of save face and uphold a reputation of not being the one to have backed down. So I didn't put the student in a situation where they felt like they either had to back down or stand their ground. I basically leveled the wall and really just, gave the student opportunity to come in and start again without feeling like they lost something. So really this situation made me think about my parenting and the way that I interact with my own children. And obviously, as a teacher in a professional setting, we're held to a certain standard, and not meeting that standard or losing your shit with the kids can impact your job. You can lose your job if you lose your cool with a student. And it doesn't have to be physical aggression. Obviously, you put your hands on a student, that's a problem. But even just yelling or getting into a verbal confrontation with a student, depending on how it goes, can really affect a teacher's career. The same is not true for parents. You can yell at your kids all you want, and there really isn't going to be any repercussions. I mean, some people might look at you sideways, especially if you're in public. You might be called a bad parent, but there really are no legal repercussions for verbally assaulting your children. And I think for me, kind of having that distinction or having that kind of consequence being held over me at work obviously makes me really take the extra few seconds required to think about a response before acting. Having that at work, it forces me to do that. I really have to take the time to think about my actions or my responses to students before I act. I can't say the same at home, because at home, when my kids do something that I feel like I've done my job in teaching them not to do, I lose it. I really, really do. And I yell a lot. I don't demean my children or call them names or anything like that, but I yell and I flip. And that alone, I know affects my kids. My kids are very empathetic. They're very sensitive children, and they are very much affected when I yell. So knowing that every time I do lose it and every time I do yell at them afterwards, I feel terrible. And it really creates this cycle of my kids do something I don't like, I yell and I lose it, and then they feel awful because I've yelled at them and made them feel insignificant or made them feel like they're bad, and then I feel terrible for making them feel terrible. And it's this just terrible cycle that I know that I need to break, but it has been hard for me to remember that and stop doing that in the moment. And this interaction today made me really, really think about that and think about why I'm able to do that and show my students that grace, that empathy and compassion, but not my children. Not that anyone is more valuable than the other. I mean, children are children, all children are valuable, obviously. But my responsibility to my children, the children that God has saw fit to make me the mother of, that is my most important responsibility. And I really had to reevaluate why I was not able to show them that same compassion. So I've made a commitment to myself, I've made a commitment to my children, more importantly, to really take the same time, the same few seconds that I'm able to take with other people's kids before responding, to really take that time to cool down, think about my response, and respond with love and not with anger, so that I don't damage my kids, so that they don't grow into insecure adults with low self-esteem because I made them feel anything less than perfect. By the way, I discipline. So my challenge to you is to think about someone in your life who really knows how to push all of your buttons, all the wrong buttons, and really knows how to trigger you and set you off, because usually those are the people that we love the most. That is why they are able to set us off the way they do, because we love them the way that we do. So my challenge to you is to think about that person, and the next time that person sets you off, the next time they are tap dancing on your last nerve, take a few seconds, take a deep breath, count to 10, and think about your response before any words come out your mouth. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back again.